The morning sun pours in through the tall windows of the courthouse in Salt Lake City, bathing the polished wooden floors with golden light and highlighting the taut faces of all who are present within. The smell of freshly brewed coffee from the cafeteria in the courthouse mingles with the sweet hint of old wood and leather-bound volumes of law. A low murmur fills the room as spectators, press, and a few curious locals start to take their seats, whispering to one another. Some look nervously up at the raised bench of the judge, while others peer surreptitiously at the defendants. Cameras softly click away from the back, recording every twitch, every furrowed eyebrow, and every gesture. Kody Brown enters first. His steps are measured, almost mechanical, as if each footfall echoes the weight of the day. The handcuffs around his wrists gleam under the fluorescent lights, a cold reminder of the gravity of the situation. His face is pale, his jaw tight, eyes scanning the courtroom. He catches sight of Robyn, whose usual composure has cracked just slightly into a frown of apprehension. Christine sits nearby, her eyes sharp, almost piercing, while Meri leans back in her seat, calm and unreadable, the corners of her lips barely hinting at a subtle smile. Janelle sits quietly, calculating, straight as a soldier, ready for the drama that is about to unfold. The judge, a tall figure with a commanding presence and sharp eyes behind thin-rimmed glasses, bangs his gavel. We are here today for matters concerning the Brown family and allegations of misconduct affecting multiple parties. All rise. The scrape of chairs against the floor and the shuffle of papers fills the room as all rise to their feet. Slowly, Kody sits down, the metallic clink of the handcuffs the only sound in the air as he lowers himself into the chair, muscles tense, fingers tapping lightly on the wooden surface. The prosecutor rises, a stack of papers in hand, and approaches the bench. Your Honor, before we proceed, we have submitted new evidence for your consideration. A hush falls over the room. Gasps ripple across the spectators as a thick manila envelope is placed carefully on the table. All eyes shift to Meri. She remains poised, her composure unshaken, as the envelope slides slowly toward Kody. Kody hesitates, his hand hovering for a short moment before he picks up the envelope. The room holds its collective breath. Slowly, deliberately, he opens it, revealing documents, photographs, and digital messages. Each piece is a thread in a web of secrets, carefully gathered, possibly devastating. Hidden communications between Robyn and outside parties that contradict her statements, along with financial records, all meticulously documented. His eyes scan the contents quickly as he tries to wrap his head around the enormity of what's in front of him. Robyn rises from her chair, face paling as she leans over the table, her fingers clutching the edge. This can't be real. She stammers in a voice that is shaking but still audible. For the first time, her steady composure starts to give way, and the tension in the room makes a giant leap. Christine's alert gaze lingers on Robyn, silently compiling the fissures, while Janelle settles back an inch or two, arms crossed, her expression neutral but calculating. Meri's lips curve ever so slightly into a smile, the first real sign of satisfaction she allows herself in this tense environment. The judge leans forward in his chair, eyes narrowing over the rim of his glasses as he scans the evidence. Ms. Brown, please step forward and explain the nature of this evidence. Meri rises, walking to the stand with a grace that commands attention. Her heels click against the marble floor, a rhythmic beat that seems to echo throughout the room. Your Honor, she begins, voice calm but firm. These documents were obtained legally. and contain information directly relevant to the claims made by Robyn Brown. They include communications and records that show contradictions in her testimony and actions that must be taken into consideration for an accurate judgment. Robyn's hand shakes slightly as she clutches the edge of the table. Her voice breaks, catching in her throat. I didn't think any of this would surface. I never intended. Her words waver under Meri's steady stare and the stark evidence before her. Kody fidgets uncomfortably, his eyes darting from Meri to Robyn and back again, caught between loyalty, fear, and the weighty burden of the moment. Christine leans forward, the tiniest unrestrained smirk playing on her lips, while Janelle's watchful eyes never leave the unfolding drama. The air thickens in the courtroom. Even reporters, hardened to the emotional gamut, can't help but raise an eyebrow. Cameras softly click away. A twitch in Kody's jaw. Robyn's eyes wide, Meri calm and collected. Christine masking her satisfaction, not quite as well. And Janelle weighing her thoughts. This is visceral tension, an invisible current weaving through every chair, every wall, every whispered word. Meri proceeds methodically, revealing bits and pieces of the evidence at a time. Texts between Robyn and a former associate. Money anomalies that belie her public statements of where she is getting income. Photographs of clandestine meetings, all nicely documented. At every new revelation, Robyn winces, her voice more fragile, her arguments disintegrating before a room full of witnesses, family members, and strangers. Kody looks down at the papers, his expression unreadable. Internally, he is a maelstrom of emotions, shock, disbelief, fear, and yet a strange sense of inevitability. He knows the fissures in their family have been deepening for years, under smiles and social media and public appearances. Now, here in this courtroom, they are exposed to the light in brutal clarity. Christine suddenly rises to her feet, cutting through the proceedings with a sharp, pointed question addressed to Robyn. Her voice cuts through the moment like a knife. Robyn, how do you explain these communications? They clearly contradict your earlier statements under oath. Robyn swallows hard, eyes darting around the courtroom, searching for support that isn't there. I can explain, she stammers, voice faltering. I didn't mean to. The judge raises his hand for order. Ms. Brown, please answer the question clearly and directly. The court demands clarity, not speculation. Robyn nods, swallowing the lump in her throat. She starts talking, relating her side of the story, but with each word, she seems to weaken her case. Kody's eyes are fixed on her, his emotions dancing across his face, concern, anger, and undisguised sadness. Meanwhile, Meri sits back, observing. Her expression calm, but eyes sharp, knowing full well the weight of what she has done and the gravity of the evidence she has presented. Christine's posture is rigid, triumphant in small ways, while Janelle remains a silent observer, calculating the shifts in power and emotion with careful, almost surgical precision. As the morning session nears its end, the bailiff announces a short recess. Spectators stir, whispering among each other. Cameras click as reporters prepare their notes, eager to capture every sensational detail. Kody stays seated, his hands folded over the handcuffs, mind racing. Robyn slowly walks to a nearby corner, gathering herself, wiping her tears discreetly from her eyes. Tension still fills the air, heavy with anticipation, knowing that what's just started is far from over. The judge reviews the evidence one last time before adjourning the session. The murmurs continue because people are trying to figure out what to make of Meri's revelations. Kody slowly exhales to steady himself, but the weight of the day is clear in the way he leans back into his chair. Robyn's shoulders sag, her stress level apparent even from across the room. Christine meets Janelle's eyes in an acknowledging glance, silently, that the power dynamics have now shifted. As the session draws to a close, the camera pans across the courtroom, lingering on each face. Fear and anticipation, veiled satisfaction, and quiet calculation. They all walk out, but the air is still thick with energy, as if the very walls bear witness to the drama that has just occurred. The sun rises higher above the courthouse roof, as the long shadows reach across the city streets, silently witnessing the tempest brewing inside. The courtroom reconvenes after the morning recess, the air thick with anticipation and tension. The soft hum of the air conditioning is heightened by the silent murmurs of the spectators. Kody, in the defendant's chair, has his hands still cuffed. Nervous fingers tap across the polished wood of the table. The weight of Meri's evidence weighs heavily on him, each passing second counting down to disaster. Robyn, still looking pale from the morning session, fidgets with her notes, trying to steady her voice against the mounting scrutiny. The judge calls the court to order, and the rustling of papers ends abruptly. "We will proceed with the analysis of the evidence presented today," he says, his gaze passing around the room with an intensity that causes even the most brazen spectators to shift uncomfortably in their chairs. The prosecutor rises, his eyes locked on Robyn. "Ms. Brown, please place these communications into context." "Your earlier testimony seems at odds with the evidence given." Robyn swallows hard, her throat tight. She lifts her gaze to the court, her eyes glistening. I didn't realize how things would appear," she begins hesitantly. "Some messages were taken out of context. I never intended to mislead anyone. It's just..." Her words falter under the weight of the room's scrutiny. The courtroom seems to shrink around her, the walls pressing in with the gravity of judgment. Christine leans forward, her face sharp, almost predatory. "Out of context," she interrupts, her tone calm yet slicing. "Robyn, these texts directly contradict statements you've made right here in this courtroom. How do you explain the difference?" Robyn's eyes dart to Christine, a flash of fear mixed with defensiveness crossing her features. Kody shifts uncomfortably, feeling the tension rise like a storm ready to break. The prosecutor follows up with a stack of new documents, photographs of private meetings, along with financial statements. Each of these is laid out carefully on the table, a visual attack on Robyn's credibility. The audience begins to murmur. Kody narrows his eyes as he picks up one photograph showing Robyn in a private meeting with an associate, a meeting not previously disclosed. The weight of the moment presses in on him, and for the first time, a flicker of fear crosses his features. Robyn stands, her voice shaking but resolute. I can explain," she says after taking a deep breath. "Yes, those meetings happened, but they weren't what they seem. I was trying to protect the family, not betray it." Her words hang in the air, met with skepticism. The judge leans back slightly, his fingers steepled. "Miss Brown, the court requires clarity, not explanation. You must provide facts, not just intent." Meri gets up from her seat, walking to the stand once more with the same confidence that had left the courtroom speechless earlier. Her heels click sharply against the marble floor. "Your Honor," she starts off, clear and articulate, "these documents, texts, and communications, taken together, show a pattern that cannot be overlooked. They contradict the testimony provided and are indicative of actions that are not in line with the claims made. The court has to take this into consideration while assessing credibility." Robyn's hands quiver as she clutches the table, endeavoring to hold herself together. Her usually calm demeanor has shattered, and across her face have passed fear, desperation, guilt, and anger. Kody leans a little forward, trying to give her one of those reassuring looks. But the heaviness of the evidence makes it almost impossible. Christine's eyes light with silent triumph, while Janelle remains an observant outsider, weighing up the dynamics unfolding with a considered, cautious gaze. The prosecutor calls a surprise witness, a close associate of Robyn's, someone who has until now remained in the background. The courtroom tenses as the witness approaches the stand, their eyes flicking between Robyn and Kody and the lawyers. The witness clears their throat, voice firm yet steady. "I was there during discussions that Robyn has repeatedly denied," they say. "She was aware of actions taken that were not disclosed publicly. The court should understand the full extent of these decisions." A collective gasp rises from the audience. The blood has drained from Robyn's face as she listened to the testimony, her voice catching in her throat. Kody leans back slightly, his jaw clenched tight, trying to compose himself. The witness continues, relating specific conversations and moments, each a little more damning than the last. Murmurs ripple through the courtroom as spectators absorb the unfolding drama. Christine stands, taking her opportunity. "So you admit these meetings and communications took place," she says in a low tone, yet very cutting. "Yet you stand here denying their importance." Robyn's lips quiver, but she does her best to defend herself. Yes, they took place, yet I wasn't trying to deceive anyone. Her words are cut short as the judge raises his hand, indicating she must be brief. The tension is so thick it's nearly suffocating. Every eye is locked on Robyn, every movement scrutinized. Kody's fingers tap nervously on the table, the metallic clink of the handcuffs echoing softly. Anticipation hangs thick in the air as the courtroom holds its collective breath, awaiting the unfolding drama. And then the witness pronounces a final, damning statement to reveal that secret Robyn had hoped never saw the light of day. It involved financial decisions, undisclosed meetings, and private communications, placing doubt on her testimony. Robyn's composure fully breaks. Tears well in her eyes as she leans in, whispering something inaudible to Kody, whose face betrays both anguish and confusion. Meri sits back in her chair, her face calm, but her eyes sharp with the weight of the moment. She knows what her evidence has done. Christine leans into her with a hint of a smirk on her face, as she silently relishes in Robyn's credibility unraveling. Janelle, still measured, remains an analytical observer. Her mind processes every shift of power and loyalty, every spark of emotion. As the session proceeds, the prosecutor produces even more evidence. Texts, emails, photographs over a period of months. Each item is in minute detail, and each revelation adds weight to the argument against Robyn. The courtroom acts as a pressure cooker, with tension high, while emotions run deep as the evidence pieces together, an act of deception, secrecy, and hidden motives. Robyn's defense fails to keep its footing. Her voice breaks under cross-examination, and with each response, the whole digs deeper. Kody's eyes fix on her. Concern, frustration, and helplessness cross his face. Christine eyes her intently, waiting for any weakness to pounce on, while Janelle is observant in silence, calculating with each revelation the implications of what is being said. The judge adjusts his glasses, then addresses the court. The evidence today has been substantial and raises serious questions regarding testimony credibility given. The court will carefully review the implications before further proceedings. The weight of his words just seems to hang there, filled with authority. The bailiff announces a brief recess, and the spectators stir whispering among themselves. Cameras click as reporters prepare their notes on every nuance of the tense atmosphere. Outside the courtroom, a murmur of speculation fills the halls. Onlookers speculate on the implications. Family members glance around in concern at each other. And even the legal team seems to realize the magnitude of what has just happened. Inside, Kody sits quietly, lost in thought. Trying to process the cascading revelations, Robyn wipes her eyes, attempting to regain composure, while Meri remains poised, fully aware of the impact of her actions. The afternoon session promises even more surprises. The witnesses yet to be called hold information that could further destabilize the fragile family dynamics. The Brown family secrets are no longer private. They are laid out for the entire courtroom to witness. Every alliance, every hidden resentment, and every strategic decision is on display as this tension grows, almost unbearable. As the session adjourns for the evening, the atmosphere remains palpably charged with tension. Kody leaves the courtroom, handcuffed, walking slowly as the weight presses upon him. Robyn follows suit, silently, with a pale, drawn face. Christine and Janelle exchange brief, measured glances, silently acknowledging the seismic shift in the family dynamics. Meri walks with quiet certainty, fully aware that today has forever changed the course of the Brown family. The audience members file out, talking in hushed tones and wide-eyed, replaying every shocking revelation, each and every damning piece of evidence, and each moment of breakdown. Outside, the sun begins to set over Salt Lake City, the long shadows cast across the street, seeming to mirror the unfolding drama inside. The storm that began in the courtroom is far from dissipating. It has only just begun. The third session opens amidst a near-silent courtroom. Morning light streams through the high windows, casting a glow on every anxious face, every whispered glance. Kody sits straight-backed at the defendant's table, his fingers interlaced, but the tension in his shoulders speaks volumes of the storm raging inside. Robyn, still pale from yesterday's revelations, sits clutching her notes, her eyes darting nervously between Meri and the judge. Christine leans slightly forward, an unreadable expression masking the satisfaction simmering beneath her cool exterior. Janelle sits silent, calculating, in an almost military pose, prepared for whatever shifts occur in the energy of the courtroom. The judge bangs his gavel, calling the room back to order. We will continue examining the evidence and testimony. The court expects full transparency and direct responses from all parties involved. The weight of his words hangs in the air, heavy and relentless. The room shrinks under their authority. Each movement is magnified in the charged atmosphere. Kody's pulse races, his palms sweating inside the handcuffs, as the metallic chill keeps him reminded of the stakes. The prosecutor stands up and begins to pace slowly behind the table, his eyes fixed on Robyn. Ms. Brown, yesterday's revelations left very serious questions about your credibility. We will continue today with those discrepancies. Can you explain your actions about all the financial documents and communications that were just presented? Robyn swallows hard, trying to steady her voice. I didn't realize how it'd all be perceived, she begins, her words hesitant. Some of the meetings, some of the communications were intended to resolve internal family matters, not to mislead or harm anyone. I didn't. Her voice breaks, and the room exhales collectively, the tension so thick it's almost palpable. Christine cuts in, her voice razor-like and unyielding. Not to mislead anyone. Robyn, these are documented actions, contradicting multiple statements you have made in this very courtroom. How do you explain that? Robyn's lips quiver. She looks over at Kody, who shifts uncomfortably, divided between sympathy, loyalty, and the irrefutable mountain of evidence weighing against her. The prosecutor then calls the first witness of the day, a former assistant of Robyn's, who comes forward with silent confidence. I was present in numerous private discussions, the witness begins, voice steady yet firm, that directly contradict statements made publicly and in previous testimonies. The court needs to understand the full context of those actions. An audible reaction ripples through the courtroom, a mix of gasps and whispers racing like wildfire. Robyn's hands shake on the table. I didn't know everything would be interpreted like this, she mutters, her voice breaking. Kody also leans forward, his jaw tight, trying to give a silent display of support, but even he looks strained under the weight of the testimony. Christine's eyes flash with satisfaction barely concealed, while Janelle remains cool, calculating the currents of emotion and searching for any exploitable weakness. The witness describes a succession of conversations that exposed inconsistencies in Robyn's words, along with the decision she made without involving the family. Each disclosure cuts like a knife through the air. Onlookers glance at each other in disbelief. The tension is unbearable, the courtroom thick with anticipation. As the testimony progresses, Robyn tries to explain herself, her words short and fitful. Yes, some meetings occurred, but I didn't intend harm. I thought it was in the best interest of everyone involved. Her voice quivers, the plea of fear and desperation unmistakable. Kody stares at her. Wordlessly. He begs for composure, yet the tension in his face is unmistakable. Meri stands again, slowly and deliberately. Your Honor, this testimony confirms patterns consistent with evidence we presented. The court should note these patterns when considering credibility. These are not isolated incidents, they're multiple, deliberate actions. Her calm and precise delivery is in direct contrast to the quavering responses heard from Robyn, underlining the seriousness of the situation. The judge leans a bit forward, adjusting his glasses. Miss Brown, the court demands factual clarity, not justification. Kindly answer the questions briefly and to the point. Robyn nods, swallowing hard. Her eyes race among Meri, Christine, and Kody. I acknowledge the meetings and communications took place. At no time did I intend to lie. I thought I was protecting the family. Christine gets to her feet once more, her voice slicing through the fractured unease. Protecting the family. Robyn, these actions were hidden, not shared. How does that constitute protection? Robyn stumbles, with only the soft, harsh sound of her labored breathing resounding through the courtroom. Kody shifts uncomfortably, running his hand over his forehead. The weight of his conflicted loyalties evident. More evidence is proffered by the prosecutor. Emails, texts, and pictures from many months. Each item refutes something Robyn has said before. Each piece, another brick in the wall encroaching on her credibility. The audience gasps at the detailed documentation. Kody's hand trembles faintly as he adjusts the stack of documents in front of him. Robyn's hands grip tightly onto the table, knuckles white in her efforts to steady herself. A second surprise witness is called, a close insider with Kody, who has intimate knowledge of the family dynamics and internal battles. The testimony is specific, recalling private moments, unspoken tensions, and strategic decisions made without all parties fully knowing. Robyn's actions caused confusion and fueled conflict. The witness states emphatically, I can attest to several instances where decisions were made without full disclosure, which contradicted her statements under oath. Robyn's face rose even paler, tears brimming in her eyes. She whispers to Kody, the words indistinguishable, but the desperation is palpable. There is silence in the room. Every onlooker is aware that private family matters have just been blown wide open. Christine leans forward slightly, and a slight smile crosses her face, while Janelle stands in silence, observing each and every reaction. The last witness of the session is called, a longtime friend and confidant of Kody's. The testimony he gives adds a layer of complexity to an already convoluted case. Decisions made by Kody that had a result on the dynamics of the family and Robyn's place within them come to light. "I saw the decisions under duress," the witness begins, his voice calm but firm in tone, "that exemplify the tangled web of loyalty and conflict throughout their family. These are relevant as to the completeness of Miss Brown's testimony." The room erupts in sound. Robyn's voice cracks as she attempts to respond, I didn't realize the consequences. I never intended to." The words break under the weight of the scrutiny. Kody's eyes meet hers for a fleeting moment, a silent plea laced with sorrow and frustration. Meri sits back, composed but triumphant, having orchestrated this chain of revelations that has destabilized the courtroom entirely. Christine is leaning forward, taking every reaction in, while Janelle observes, her mind methodically processing the emotional and strategic fallout. At the end of the session, the judge goes over the evidence and testimonies. His face is a mask. The court is cognizant of the complexity and the emotionally charged nature of the evidence adduced. Further proceedings will continue, and all parties are put on notice to remain respectful and precise in their testimony. The gavel falls, and a short recess is taken. The onlookers stand up, murmuring among themselves, and exchanging looks of disbelief, anticipation, and curiosity. Cameras click away as reporters jot down notes to capture every moment of the drama unfolding in the court. Outside, the sun of the city starts to dip lower, casting long shadows across Salt Lake City, as if mirroring the darkness settling over the Brown family. Kody is sitting silently, lost in his thoughts, replaying every revelation and every accusation in his mind. Robyn slowly walks to a corner, wiping away tears to regain her composure. Meri's confident stride while leaving the stand is a visible sign of a power shift that has begun to take place. Christine exchanges a brief, satisfied glance with Janelle, as there is an undeniable, subtle shift in dynamics. Inside, the courtroom feels like a pressure cooker, the tension almost palpable. Alliances have shifted, fissures of trust have deepened, and the private battles of the family are now fully out in the open. Each word and every gesture, even the whispered side conversations, is analyzed and internalized by those in the room. This storm is far from over, it is only ramping up. As the session adjourns, onlookers slowly make their way out, their discussions quiet but replete with speculation. Anticipation builds for the next session, tension remaining in the air, thick as a storm cloud. Kody makes his way out of the courtroom, wrists cuffed, heavy with reflection and emotion. Robyn follows, pale and silent. Christine and Janelle move with calculated precision, minds racing over the next steps to take. Meri walks with subdued jubilation, acutely aware that she just dramatically tilted the balance of power in the courtroom. The sun now sets further over the city, casting a shadow across the courthouse steps. Inside, the echoes of tension and anticipation still linger in the air to remind everyone that the most shocking revelations are yet to come. The family's fate hangs in the balance of secrets exposed, relationships tested, and truths finally revealed. The courtroom is thick with anticipation as the fourth session gets underway. Sunlight filters weakly through the high windows, throwing long, tense shadows on the polished wooden floors. Every face in the room is taut with tension. Kody's jaw clenched, his hands still cuffed and resting tensely on the table, fingers drumming lightly against the wood. Robyn sits rigid, clutching her notes as if they could anchor her against the storm of scrutiny she's about to face. Christine leans forward, eyes sharp and unyielding, a predator savoring the moment her adversary is most vulnerable. Janelle, ever composed, observes silently, calculating the unfolding emotional and strategic dynamics. The judge's gavel bangs sharply, demanding attention. We shall now continue with the testimony and presentation of evidence. All parties are put on notice to answer briefly and truthfully. Instantaneously, the courtroom falls silent, the weight of today's revelations from sessions 1 through 3 looming like a thick fog in the air over the persons present in the courtroom. Kody takes a deep breath, feeling the mounting pressure. He looks at Robyn, her pallor, shaking hands belying the anxiety that has ridden her since these sessions began. The prosecutor rises and begins to pace a little bit behind the table, his eyes fixed on Robyn. Ms. Brown, yesterday and the session before, left a lot of questions. Today, we will look at communications and financial records that directly contradict your testimony. How do you explain the discrepancies? Robyn swallows hard. Her throat is tight, her voice barely above a whisper. I didn't think it would be perceived this way, she begins tentatively. Yes, I went to meetings, and yes, there was incomplete disclosure of some messages. But at no time did I mean to deceive anyone. Her words falter under the scrutiny of the room. The spectators lean forward, slightly in their chairs, the tension palpable. Christine cuts in sharply, breaching the fragile calm. Not to mislead anyone, she says, her voice firm and precise. Robyn, these communications directly contradict statements you have made in this courtroom. How can the court trust your words? Robyn's eyes dart nervously to Kody. He shifts uncomfortably, pulled between his concern for her and the undeniable force of the evidence. The prosecutor then calls a surprise witness, a former close associate of Robyn's, whose mere presence sends a stir through the courtroom. The witness approaches the stand with quiet confidence. Each of his steps is measured, as if he senses the tension emanating from the room. I was present during private discussions that contradict public statements made by Ms. Brown. The witness begins. It is crucial for the court to understand the full scope of her actions. The edges of the table quake under Robyn's shaky grip. I never meant this to happen, she stammers. Kody clenches his jaw tight, while his eyes fleetingly glance around, in a struggle for composure, as the weight of the courtroom bears down on him. Christine's mouth hitches with a subtle smirk, sensing the chinks forming in Robyn's armor. Janelle, ever analytical, observes in silence, logging every reaction, every shift in emotion. The witness continues, relating meetings and decisions that Robyn had not revealed in the past. With each testimony, another layer of tension is added, another dagger in the heart of her credibility. Spectators gasp, murmurs ripple across the room, and Kody's fingers tighten on the edge of the table, white-knuckled from stress. Meri rises again, walking towards the stand with poised confidence. Her heels click sharply against the marble floor, each step punctuating the gravity of the moment. Your Honor, she begins, steady-voiced and commanding. The evidence and testimony presented today establish a consistent pattern. These communications and actions were deliberate, recurring, and contrary to prior statements. The court must weigh these factors carefully when evaluating credibility. Robyn's eyes widen, her quivering lips trying to form a response. I understand the concern, but the words catch in her throat under Meri's unrelenting stare and the blinding evidence. Kody leans forward, attempting a silent show of support, but even he appears daunted by the relentless weight of the revelations. Christine stands, her voice cutting and sharp through the tension. Ms. Brown, these were not isolated incidents. They were part of a pattern that directly contradicts your testimony. How do you justify that? Robyn swallows hard. Tears well in her eyes. Her voice shakes. I thought I was protecting the family. I never intended to deceive anyone. Her words collapse, lost in the suffocating tension. The prosecutor introduces further evidence. A series of emails, text messages, and photographs over several months, each carefully documented. Each item is presented as a visual confirmation of the contradictions and omissions previously observed. Murmurs run around the courtroom as onlookers absorb the implications. Kody's hands shake slightly as he shifts papers in front of himself. Robyn's knuckles turn white from clenching the table. The emotional pressure is almost unbearable. A second surprise witness comes forward. Someone who has intimate knowledge of Kody and Robyn's private interactions. Through their testimony, hidden decisions, secret meetings, and moments of manipulation show Robyn in a whole new light. I was present when critical decisions were made without full disclosure, the witness says, voice calm but resolute. These actions contradict prior statements made in court. Robyn's face pales further, tears threatening to spill. She leans slightly toward Kody, whispering something inaudible, desperation in every gesture. Christine sits forward slightly, the faintest smirk of triumph playing across her lips. Janelle continues to observe silently, cataloging the impact of each revelation on the family dynamic. A longtime friend and confidant of Kody's is called as the final witness of the session. Their testimony adds a new layer of complexity, revealing difficult choices Kody made and the unintended consequences of Robyn's actions. The family's dynamics are complicated, the witness says with a steady voice. I observed decisions made under extreme pressure that have brought to light some difficult conflicts of loyalty and hidden tensions. These actions directly relate to the credibility of Ms. Brown's testimony. The courtroom erupts in a chorus of murmurs. Robyn's voice breaks as she attempts to respond. I didn't realize the consequences. I never intended to. Her words falter, drowned out by the sheer weight of scrutiny. Kody's eyes meet hers for a brief, silent exchange of empathy and anguish. Meri remains composed, her calmness a sharp contrast to the emotional chaos surrounding her. Christine leans forward, absorbing every nuance, while Janelle continues to watch, analytical and detached. The judge stops, pushes his glasses up the bridge of his nose, and says, the evidence is strong. The case will continue, and all parties are reminded to keep decorum. He bangs his gavel, calling for a brief recess. Spectators stand, murmuring in hushed tones, trading glances of shock and intrigue. Cameras click away as reporters jot down copious notes to capture the emerging drama. Outside the courtroom, the sun moves, casting long shadows across Salt Lake City, almost paralleling the shroud of darkness falling upon the Brown family. Kody walks out of the courtroom in silence, his hands cuffed, his pace slow as the weight of today's revelations pushes down on him. Pale and wordless, Robyn follows after him, fighting to collect herself. Christine and Janelle look sideways at each other quickly, a calculated look of recognition that today has shifted the subtle undercurrents of power. Meri walks calmly, victoriously, knowing her strategic presentation has blown the whole family dynamic completely. Inside, the courtroom is still electric with tension, the emotional stakes higher than ever. Alliances have shifted, fissures in trust grown wider, and the private battles of the Brown family are public for all to see. Every gesture, every hushed word, every glance is cause for scrutiny, and the maelstrom shows no sign of abatement, only growth. The onlookers slowly leave after the adjournment of the fourth session, speaking in hushed tones and making speculations. Anticipation for the next session mounts, the tension lingering in the air, like a storm cloud threatening to break. Kody walks with heavy feet, Robyn silent and tense, while Christine and Janelle make their way with measured precision. Meri walks with quiet certainty, knowing today has shifted the balance of power irreversibly. As if exhaling, the sun sets over Salt Lake City, casting a long shadow on the steps of the courthouse. The tension and anticipation-filled echoes still linger inside, and everyone is keenly aware that the most surprising revelations have yet to surface. In the balance, the family's fate is delicately set upon the brink of secrets finally exposed, relationships put to the test, and truths finally revealed. The fifth session begins with a tense hush settling over the courtroom, heavier than the previous mornings. The morning sun barely manages to sieve through the tall windows, leaving long shadows across polished floors that reflect the anxiety etched into every face present. Kody Brown sits stiff in the defendant's chair, the handcuffs glinting weakly under the overhead lights. His jaw is taut, his eyes darting incessantly between Meri, who sits with poise, and Robyn, who looks like a woman trying desperately to gather herself against the storm closing in. Christine leans forward slightly, elbows to her knees, eyes narrowed in anticipation. Janelle sits wordlessly, calculating, her body language perfectly poised, as if she's both shield and observer, waiting for the chaos to reveal itself. Spectators and reporters perch on seat edges with notebooks ready, cameras poised, all senses tuned to capture each ripple of emotion across the courtroom. The tall, commanding judge raises his gavel. We will proceed. Today, the court expects clarity and truthfulness in all testimonies. Any misleading statements will have repercussions. The gavel strikes sharply, and the resulting echo can almost be compared to a warning shot off the walls. Kody shifts slightly, hands tightening over the handcuffs, the silent reminder of constraint and vulnerability. The prosecutor rises, pacing slowly behind the table, eyes locked on Robyn. Miss Brown, the court has received additional evidence overnight, which raises even more questions about the accuracy of your previous statements. We will now examine these items and their implications. The room collectively leans in. Kody's pulse quickens. Robyn's fingers tremble as she adjusts her notes. Robyn swallows hard, her voice low but deliberate. I understand the court's concerns. I have tried to be truthful, but her words falter, emotion catching in her throat. The tension in the room tightens, every spectator aware that this is a pivotal moment. Christine's gaze sharpens, almost predatory, while Meri's calm composure radiates control, making Robyn's struggle seem all the more fragile. The prosecutor surprises her with the appearance of a witness who has been kept behind the scenes until now. A former assistant of Robyn's steps forward, each step being placed deliberately for full effect, demanding the undivided attention of everyone present. I was privy to conversations and actions that contradict Ms. Brown's statements. The witness begins, voice steady but firm. It's imperative that the court understands the full extent of these discrepancies. Robyn's hands clench on the table, knuckles white, in her efforts to hold herself together. I never wanted this to be taken out of context, she whispers, shaking. Kody leans slightly forward with an expression of concern and helplessness. Christine's lips curl ever so slightly into a faint smirk, while Janelle continues silently observing every nuanced reaction. The witness outlines meetings and communications previously denied by Robyn. With each disclosure, the blade cuts deeper into her credibility. The onlookers gasp, eyes wide with shock and unbelief. Kody's fingers clench tighter over the handcuffs. The metallic clink, the only sound that breaks the stifling silence. Meri stands again, her heels clicking sharply on the marble floor, moving with measured confidence toward the stand. "Your Honor," she begins, voice calm and precise. The evidence presented shows a consistent pattern of behavior that directly contradicts prior testimony. This pattern cannot be ignored and is central to evaluating credibility in this case. Robyn's wide eyes stare over at Kody. Her lips shake as she says, barely above a whisper, I tried to protect the family. I never meant to lie to anyone." Kody shifts uncomfortably, his compassion for Robyn conflicting with the incontrovertible proof. Christine leans slightly forward, her eyes shining with vindication, while Janelle is more aloof, observing every reaction with minute attention. The series of emails, text messages, and photographs spanning months is next introduced by the prosecutor. Each is a small bomb that points to Robyn's previous lying and the depth of deception and secrecy. The courtroom was riveted until the tension could almost be felt. Kody's hands shook slightly as he worked to get the stack of papers together. Robyn held onto the table, her knuckles white, attempting to keep herself composed, the physical evidence mounting. A second surprise witness approaches the stand, a confidant of Kody's, and someone very well acquainted with the inner turmoil of this family. Their testimony exposes actions and decisions made by Robyn in secret, decisions that go on to contradict her public statements directly. I observed multiple instances where Ms. Brown made decisions without informing the family, states the witness calmly. These actions contradict her prior testimony and demonstrate a pattern of secrecy. The blood drains from Robyn's face as her voice breaks in a whispered pleading with Kody. "I didn't think it would come out like this. I never." His eyes lock onto hers, reflecting sorrow, frustration, and fear. Meri sits back, composed, fully aware of the magnitude of the damage her evidence has caused. Christine leans forward, absorbing the chaos unfolding before her, while Janelle continues to catalog every reaction. The final witness of the session is called, a longtime friend and confidant of Kody's. Their testimony delivers a dramatic twist, revealing hidden alliances, secret communications, and conflicts within the family that Robyn had attempted to obscure. I witnessed decisions and conversations that reveal the complexity of loyalties within the family, the witness says. These actions directly challenge Miss Brown's credibility and must be considered by the court. Gasps and whispers immediately fill the courtroom. Robyn's voice cracks as she attempts to respond. I didn't mean for this to happen. I never. Her words falter under the scrutiny of every eye. Kody leans forward, silently attempting to reassure her, but the tension is overwhelming. Meri remains calm and collected, a stark contrast to the emotional turmoil surrounding her. Christine leans forward, taking in every nuance, while Janelle watches in silence, assessing the psychological fallout. The judge adjusts his glasses and addresses the court. The evidence presented is significant and raises serious questions regarding the credibility of testimony. All parties are reminded to maintain composure as proceedings continue. With a strike of the gavel, he calls for a short recess. Spectators stand, whispering in excited tones. Cameras click, reporters jot down notes, and the air is electric with speculation. Outside, the Salt Lake City sun casts long shadows across the courthouse, as if mirroring the darkness settling over the Brown family. Kody exits the courtroom, slowly, in handcuffs, laden heavy with the revelations of today. Robyn trails behind, pale and silent, as she tries to collect herself. Christine and Janelle are calculated in their movements as the shifts in dynamics unfold. Meri walks quietly triumphantly, knowing full well her testimony has disrupted the family power balance. Tension inside the courtroom is still high. The family's private struggles have become all so public. Every movement is under scrutiny, every glance analyzed. The storm is far from over as it continues to build. With each revelation, one more layer of secrecy has been torn away, exposing vulnerabilities, widening the chasm in the family. As the session adjourns, the spectators are slow to leave, murmuring to each other in hushed tones. Cameras click away, capturing every reaction, every facial expression, every whisper. The air is electric with anticipation of the next session. Kody walks at a measured gait, silent and tense. Robyn, Christine and Janelle observant, Meri leaving quietly confident. The sun sets lower over Salt Lake City, casting long shadows across the steps of the courthouse. But inside, the echoes of tension still linger. The secrets of the Brown family hang in a precarious balance, caught between exposure and concealment. Every alliance and every betrayal has been shown, along with every hidden truth. The storm is far from over, and it is about to reach its peak.